Imagine you're a fish, not swimming freely in the open ocean, calm and safe. You're stuck in a shrinking pond somewhere in what's now Canada 375 million years ago. The water around you is warm, stagnant, and running out of oxygen. Other fish are dying around you, gasping at the surface. You can feel your gills starting to fail, and just a few feet away, there's land. Dry, empty, terrifying land. No animal has ever survived there before. But staying in the water means dying slowly. So what do? This isn't a hypothetical. This exact situation happened over and over for millions of years, and the fish that found an answer became the ancestor of every land animal that has ever existed, including you. Today, when you think about evolution, you probably picture it as smooth and inevitable. Fish became amphibians, amphibians became reptiles, and so on, like a neat staircase. But the real story is nothing like that. It's a story of fish trapped in dying ponds, drowning in their own shrinking world, forced to solve three problems that should have been impossible. The first problem was breathing. Gills only work underwater. Pull a fish onto land and it suffocates within minutes, its gills collapsing under their own weight without water to hold them open. So how did anything survive long enough on land to breathe air? The answer starts inside the fish itself. Some ancient fish, called lobe-finned fish, already had a strange backup organ, a simple sac connected to the throat that could gulp air directly. In oxygen-poor water, gulping air at the surface wasn't optional. It was survival. Over generations, that sac slowly thickened, developed blood vessels, and became something new, a lung. The fish weren't planning to leave the water. They were just trying not to suffocate in it. The second problem was movement. Fins are built to push against water. On land, they're useless. They just bend and collapse under an animal's own weight. But inside the fins of certain fish, paleontologists found something nobody expected: bones. Not simple fin rays, but actual limb bones. A shoulder, an elbow, a wrist, arranged almost exactly like the bones in your own arm. The fossil that proved this is called Tiktaalik, discovered on Ellesmere Island in the Canadian Arctic in 2004, dated to roughly 375 million years ago. It had gills and scales like a fish, but also a flexible neck and a set of primitive limb bones capable of propping up its body. It wasn't built to walk on land. It was built to push through shallow, tangled, plant-choked water, doing push-ups against the mud just to keep breathing at the surface. Land locomotion came later. Survival in swamp water came first. The third problem was the body itself. Water supports weight. Land does not. Pull a large fish out of water and gravity crushes its own organs. This is the reason early land invaders stayed small and stayed near water's edge for millions of years. Fossils like Acanthostega and Ichthyostega, both found in Greenland and dated to around 365 million years ago, show the transition frozen in progress. Acanthostega had fully formed legs, with 8 digits per limb, not 5, but its limbs were too weak to support real walking. It's now believed it used those legs mostly to move through dense underwater vegetation, not to march onto land at all. The legs evolved in the water, for the water. Walking on land was, almost accidentally, something those same legs turned out to be capable of doing later. So here's what makes this story stranger than the neat fish grows legs and walks onto land version everyone learns in school. Every piece of the body that made land life possible, lungs, limbs, weight-bearing joints, evolved first for reasons that had nothing to do with land. Lungs evolved to survive low-oxygen water. Limbs evolved to shove through swamp vegetation. Strong joints evolved to survive crowded, shallow ponds packed with predators and competitors. Land wasn't the destination. It was an accident that happened to work. And the timing wasn't random either. This all happened during the late Devonian period, a time when Earth's atmosphere and plant life were changing fast. Land plants had only recently evolved roots and started forming the first real soil, which created swamps, shallow deltas, and dense, decaying vegetation, environments that sucked oxygen out of the water as they rotted. The very conditions that were killing fish in the water were the same conditions that made land, for the first time in Earth's history, survivable. Insects and plants had already colonized dry land millions of years earlier. Vertebrates were the last to arrive at a party that had already started, forced there not by curiosity, but by the slow suffocation of their own habitat. And once a handful of these fish-like creatures could gulp air and drag themselves through mud, an entire empty world opened up. No predators on land yet, no competition, just insects, plants, and open space. The descendants of those gasping, dying pondfish eventually became amphibians, then reptiles, then mammals, then, hundreds of millions of years later, you. Every breath you take right now uses a lung that started as an emergency air sac in a suffocating fish. Every step you take uses a limb structure that first evolved to help a fish do push-ups in the mud. You are not descended from a brave fish that decided to conquer land. You're descended from a desperate fish that was slowly dying in the water and happened to survive by accident. So the next time you take a breath without thinking about it, remember, 375 million years ago, that same breath was the difference between life and extinction. It was never planned, it was never inevitable. It was a fish trapped in a dying pond just trying not to die. And somehow, that accident became you.